Chargers go.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bolt Talk with Marty and Christian. I'm your host, Martin Marine. My host, Christian Giannis, right across the way over there. Christian, how are we doing today?
Dude, I'm fired up, bro. I mean, there's nothing else I could say. Everybody's making moves around the league. Chargers, a big moves today. Austin Eckler's finally off the team. Thank God. Good riddance. We're coming with the energy today. Mike Williams as well. But just happy to be here, man. I'm super excited.
Yes, sir. I'm excited as well. As you mentioned, Austin Eckler officially signed with the Washington Commanders. They're building the oldest roster in the league right now with all that cap space that they have. So congratulations to him. He got that big running back contract that he had Zoom calls over. So I think the deal was like $5-6 million a year. So obviously I'm being sarcastic. He didn't really get paid the way that he was expecting. Very, very similar situation to what happened to Melvin Gordon when he was kind of holding out and trying to get the big contract and ended up getting way below what he was asking for. But unfortunately, that bridge has been burned. And it's time to look ahead. With that being said, the Chargers made a smart, savvy move. Not a super flashy move, but a savvy move in signing Gus Edwards. Very team-friendly deal, kind of one of those under-the-radar type of signings. He had his least productive year last year. It was the only year in his career where he didn't average over 5 yards per carry. But, I mean, who's to say he can't get right back to that? And I don't think we're expecting that either. I think we need an NFL running back on this roster.
Exactly. Who do we got? Isaiah Spiller.
Isaiah Spiller is the only option we have at this moment. So I saw some rumblings about us being interested in J.K. Dobbins too. Seems like we're just signing every single Ravens player that we can or Ravens affiliate that we can at this point.
Seriously.
But hey, I'm not complaining because I think if you gave Justin Herbert that Baltimore Ravens team, he'd be pretty good. So yeah, very exciting times. It's very cool. One of the things that stands out for me for sure is that every single move feels like it's all centered around the team identity. You don't really have too much disjointedness with the thinking. For example, signing Will Dissly also, not a great threat in the pass game, but enough in the run game to kind of open things up. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, no, just mentioning both of these guys, right, to your point, basically it's kind of going with the scheme of how we want to run the team, right? We talked about toughness in the first episode, and these two guys, I mean, they have that. So it's kind of going with the identity that, Ortiz had back in Baltimore and the kind of identity that Jim Harbaugh is going to bring, just how he had in at Michigan, right? So Will Dissly, like I said, you kind of know the production we're going to get out of these guys, and it's not the flashy, but it's going to be the run game, the blocking from Will Dissly. I saw a stat I looked up. He was the third best blocking tight end, behind Kittle, and I forgot who else. But that's a big deal, right? I mean, you sent me the clip of when we played Seattle this year. He just who'd he toss, bro?
Chris Rump.
Okay. I mean, take that with a grain of salt. But we'll make sure to watch the tape to see what we're getting. But like I said, not the flashiest picks, but definitely we're gonna get some production from these guys.
Yeah, no. To that point, I know I was being kind of funny with that, but. I wasn't so much trying to showcase his great blocking. I just thought it was funny that he was coming to us and he was just tossing around Chris Rumpf.
Oh, okay.
So I just thought it was hilarious because of the connection there. Again, I mean, he's not going to be the option on third down or anything like that.
He's not going to be Kelsey, bro?
No. Probably not, actually. Who knows? No, but, he's going to be dirty. He's going to really open things up when they go into 12 personnel and things like that, maybe kind of line up at fullback depending on some of the moves that they choose to make. We know the Ravens were one of the only two teams in the league that had a fullback, so maybe we'll bring that back. I'm a huge fan of the fullback, by the way. I think if you get the right guy in that position, you can cause a lot of headaches for a defense, but that position is unfortunately kind of gone by the wayside these days because teams kind of figured out you could just throw a tight end back there.
Yeah. Shout out Juszczyk, though. Shout out Juszczyk, though. He's still a dog at that position. So got a couple guys. Yeah, Miss Tolbert.
Mike Tolbert, man. Talk about a bowling ball right there. He was a lot of fun to watch for sure. Mm-hmm. But just overall, I think every signing so far makes sense. And that's all the non-flashy stuff. So obviously today, and today is March 13th. As of this morning, Mike Williams is no longer a Los Angeles Charger. Sad to see you go, man. I know we joke sometimes about him, but overall, I mean, he was a big play threat. He was one of the best jump ball receivers in the league, and Herbert had a ton of confidence in him. And, he did some great things. He had that great game winner against the Chiefs a couple years ago. And
yes, sir.
He always seems to turn it on against the Chiefs. Hopefully he doesn't sign there and dunks on dirt or anything like that. But wishing him the best.
That would be crazy. I think we're seeing a lot of guys around the league going to their rivals. I mean,
Yes,
to name a few, Aaron Jones, huge signing for the Vikings. Who just went to the Dolphins? Poyer just went to the Dolphins. He's now going to be playing Josh Allen, who he practiced, every day against. Saquon Barkley. But yeah, to name a few, I think that's what's kind of going on around the league. They're trying to get it back in blood, man. So hopefully not.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully not. But also it's a very real possibility.
Yeah,
like, it could happen.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the Chiefs are kind of navigating with their cap space right now. But hopefully we don't see him in Arrowhead Red anytime soon. I've seen some rumblings kind of talking about potentially bringing him back on a different kind of deal. I mean, really all the Chargers had to do was cut him, and maybe they'll figure something out. I'm not really seeing the path for that, and it doesn't make too much sense. In my opinion, I think the option at 5 is still Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. if he's there. The only thing with him is we're just not sure he's going to be there at 5. Brock Bowers, I mean, we've talked about him. I know the fan base really wants him. I wouldn't like hate that, he's great. He is, like, he's probably one of the best tight end prospects in a long time, up there with Kyle Pitts. But I just can't get over the whole tight end stigma. Maybe I'm just a boomer on that and I'm a little behind on the times, but tight end is super important now, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. And to your point, man, it's really interesting to see some of these guys going to division rivals. Like you mentioned Aaron Jones, like that's going to the Vikings, especially in that division. That division really loves its rivalries, or hates its rivalries, I should say. And then Saquon going over to the Eagles.
You see that Tiki Barber thing? That was kind of ridiculous. I feel like that's kind of ridiculous. I don't know, to say that you're like dead to us and stuff. I mean, that was kind of crazy, honestly. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a lot of Giants fans in general kind of felt similarly. But I'm like, dude, come on, what are you guys doing over there? Like, running back shelf lives are already short. I mean, I guess you could be upset about him going to the Eagles. I get that part. But like, ultimately, that's a better fit. And as a player, as an individual, you go where you need to be. So great offensive line. I know they lost Jason Kelsey to retirement, but still that team always seems to somehow figure out the offensive line. That's kind of their thing. And star receivers on the outside. It's going to be very difficult to stack the box the same way that they did against the Giants, or against him when he was on the Giants. So should see some running lanes for him. Obviously there was a chance that he was going to come here. Christian, you really wanted that to happen. What was the trade? What was the trade you wanted to propose?
I'm bringing up the text. I'm going to put that up on the screen, by the way. But yeah, I texted Marty. I think I said, what did I say? I said Joey. And,
I think you're like the fifth
and Joey or something.
And Mike or Keenan. I don't know.
I just threw out some ridiculous trade. But no, when I first heard that news, I mean, honestly, if we're looking at it, I think it would have been a great fit. But to the point of getting Gus and everything, I think we're kind of going to go with the running back by committee, just like the Ravens did, rotating a lot of guys, having fresh legs out there on third downs and, throughout the drive. So I don't think we wanted to spend that much money on one running back. I think we're going to kind of spread out everything, especially with our cap space, So definitely.
Yeah, and with that being said, the release of Mike Williams and, forgot to mention this, by the way, Khalil Mack restructured his deal. It seems like they're not necessarily extending him. It sounds like they're adding void years. So just kind of dispersing the money a little bit. But good for him, man. He's always been a stand-up guy since he joined us. I know he got drafted to the Raiders and he was our rival for a long time, but he really truly feels like a Charger. Like it seems like he loves it here, and that's really cool to see, man, because I remember he used to terrorize Phil and those teams back in the day, and it's really cool to see him still kind of being that guy at his advanced age. But more than that, just being a great locker room presence. He's we've heard stories when the whole Brandon Staley debacle kind of happened and all the details came out. There was nothing bad about Khalil Mack. Everything was great. It was glowing. And that was really cool to see that, he would host little dinners at his house with the defense and trying to really team build. You don't really get that too much these days. And in a locker room that seemed like it was kind of falling apart, he seemed to be the glue. So really glad to retain him. I think we still probably go edge in like the second or third or fourth round. Chop Robinson. We both love Chop Robinson. We'll see how that plays out depending on needs and who's on the board. But I do think that's a real possibility. And I would be pretty excited for that. So that'd be kind of cool. I mean, who doesn't want a guy named Chop Robinson on their freaking team, man?
Chop and Mac. It's crazy.
Chop, Mac, and Thule, man.
Yes,
Those
sir.
are some names. Just like Chris said, we're just picking names at this point.
I know.
Hey, if a player passes the NFL name test, there's like a 90% chance he's going to be a star. So
we got to get Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid McKinstry, bro, in the second.
I love him, man. I would love that.
He's a dog.
Yeah. If he somehow slips to the second, I think you take him over Chop, though. Ton of holes on this team right now. Secondary is a big question. We really don't have corners. We have Asante Samuel Jr., Jasir Taylor. I'm not sure if Mike Davis is under contract, but like I don't care. You got to get it.
We're gonna
that's
have to
like
argue
Christian's
about that
favorite
one,
player.
man. Hey, hold on. Let's get this story straight, man.
Mr. DB over here. You're a corner. You just love Michael Davis. Explain that one for me.
He had a great year. I forgot what year it was. I think it was a couple years back.
I forgot too, man.
That got him the contract. Obviously, you know why I always thought he was good is because he played Tyreek Hill. He played his ass off versus Tyreek Hill, and I think when you have a guy, arguably the best receiver in the league, maybe, and not at back then because of all the weapons that they had, Kelsey obviously being one of them, but he would lock him up every time, and he earned my respect. So, and then whenever I would see him, I loved his speed, I loved his athleticism, but that was the main reason though that I loved him is because he would shut down Tyreek every time.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he did. I can't debate. I don't know if every single time.
Pick six versus Brady. You forgot that one. You forgot Brady. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think he had some moments. I'm not saying that. It's just he's just frustrating as hell to watch because, in my opinion, he has a ton of talent, and he's just never lived up to it. And I think the nickname just pisses me off all the more. Like, Vato. Christian just texts me every time he's like in the vicinity. Vato.
It's like when the DBs, the receiver gets overthrown and he goes like this. Like, that's just Vato stuff right there.
That's Vato's whole game right there. No, I mean, obviously, if he stays on the team and he bounces back, that's nothing but good for us. But realistically speaking, we probably need to add a piece there in the secondary. Safety is locked up. We have Derwin James, Alohi Gilman just re-signed as well. I know kind of like split opinions on Alohi Gilman. I don't really get it when guys don't like him. I think he's a great player. I mean, it took him a little while to pop, but to me, he's Eric Weddle. Like, he's the same guy.
I've never thought about it like that. Besides the number, obviously, but
the number, I didn't even mean because of the number though. I'm just talking about purely from play style.
No, definitely.
He's like that free safety now, where Derwin is more so the box safety. And speaking about locking up Tyreek, I mean, you remember that Dolphins game? What was it, 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
And he was all over Reek. Made some plays, and then this year he was just taking the ball away constantly. He had that big strip against the Vikings, I believe, and he's just a playmaker. He's a safety,
Yep.
He makes plays. He doesn't really lose his assignment too often. I mean, he's not a man coverage kind of guy. And he's a little deficient when it comes to speed, but at the safety position, it's more about positioning, understanding concepts that offenses are trying to attack you with, and just diagnosing that in real time. And he does a really good job, in my opinion. He's kind of a pro's pro.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of capped out at what he is. He's not gonna
That's what I was gonna say. That I was gonna say like he's one of those guys that where you're gonna get out of him. You don't expect him to be a Derwin James, but he's not gonna be like a bottom of the pile safety for sure.
And you can argue he was even more consistent than Derwin last year.
That was my fault. Sorry.
That was your fault. We won't tell that story right now. We'll talk about that another day. But so that was partly your fault because you cursed Derwin. But whatever. We'll move past that quickly here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Asante Samuel, I think still has a bright future. I think same thing with him. He's going to be a B plus. for the rest of his career, and that's not bad. He was a second-round corner, and I'm very excited for him. Happy to bring him back. Jasir Taylor, I'm not really too sold on him, but I think guys are like way too low on him. He was like some day 3 pick. It's not like we got to tamper our expectations here. I mean, yeah, you can blame Telesco for not building the roster correctly, but like the guy himself, if he's like your 4th or 5th cornerback, he's amazing.
Yeah.
But we were just unfortunately throwing him in there as a starter, which is a problem. Can't do that. But I think everything is about perspective, and I really like the approach that Ortiz is taking, because let's talk a little bit about the moves, the big moves that were made today. So I think you and me both were expecting Mike Williams and either Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack to get either cut or traded, right? That's kind of what we both had settled on. And really only one of those things happened. So they cut Mike, but Joey Bosa is still on the team. Khalil Mack is still on the team, and we anticipated Keenan still being on the team as well. But I think the surprise for me is Joey.
Yeah, same.
There was reports that the team approached him, asked him to take a pay cut. By no means does he owe us that. He doesn't have to do that. But he declined, and they did restructure Khalil Mack's contract. So I was just surprised to see that they didn't have a corresponding move to cut Joey. But, after reading a little bit and seeing some people's opinions, it kind of made sense to me that you want to get under the cap by the new league year start, and by the time free agency starts, so that you're compliant, you don't get penalized, and you're good to go. But that doesn't mean he's going to stay on this team. So it does seem like they're still trying to shop him around. It sounds like they're not trying to let him go for nothing. So I know people have speculated a little bit about him going to join his brother up in San Francisco. Possibility. Not sure how realistic that is, depending on what that trade looks like. But he's also fairly overpaid not for how good he is, but for how available he is, right? So I'm interested to see what the trade market is for him. I'm not expecting too much, but I wouldn't freak out too much. I'm not sure he's going to be on this team next year, and if he is, then all right, let's go.
That's right. Yeah. Same to your point. Same to your point, man. I mean, the availability the past couple of years of Joey has just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I love Joey Bosa. I've always loved him ever since he came into the league as a rookie. I mean, rookie of the year. He's dominant when he's on the field as a run stopper and as a pass rusher. I would say his pass rushing abilities have declined over the past several years just because of his foot and, coming off the ball with his power and speed. I mean, I saw him get stuffed a couple times, like pancaked, bro. And I pay attention to the D-line a lot.
He's small. He's small now, yeah.
So, I mean, like you said, his production hasn't been the greatest. So if we could get I would be happy to get a third out of him, and then a fourth.
Me too.
I think that's kind of the market that we're looking at. I do believe they are trying to probably work something out before any decision's made. But, I wouldn't be mad if he leaves. And then I think the team, like with Mac restructuring, I think the mindset, at least for Mac, right, where he's like at the tail end of his career. He wants to win now, and he feels that this is the time, this is the team, and these are the people around to get that done. So that move I did expect, and I think we're going to expect the same thing from Keenan. I think he's going to end up restructuring, taking that pay cut to be with his guy Justin instead of getting traded, and obviously he's not getting released. So I think that's kind of the vibe that I'm going to get from from Keenan, and the vibe that I got from Mac restructuring.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's more you have these elite players that are still elite, but we understand that regression hits kind of fast in the NFL, and it hits pretty hard.
Yeah.
But let's say we go first round, just hypothetically speaking. Let's say we go first round wide receiver, one of the big 2 names, or even a Dunze, because I know you like him a lot, and I wouldn't be opposed to that either. It's not my personal pick, but I would be okay with that. One of those 3 guys. Keenan can mentor and really show them the ropes, show them how to be pros, and help their development, and then eventually they'll be wide receiver 1. I think we expect that by even maybe this year. You know?
Yeah.
But more realistically next year for sure.
Definitely, yeah. Well, just like Keenan did, when he came into the league and Malcolm Floyd goes down.
Floyd.
Bro, versus Eagles, I think it was week 2. I remember he goes down.
Yeah.
And then Keenan becomes wide receiver 1 from literally day 1, bro. I think he had over 100 yards in that game alone. Obviously, he had the best quarterback in the world, Phillip Rivers.
In history, in NFL history.
But yeah, so no, I agree.
Yeah. Well, Keenan was just different. I mean, you could see it from day one. I remember just sidebarring a little bit about Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get romantic about him. I love Keenan.
Yep.
First round talent when he was coming out. The only problem was his injury concern. We ended up getting him in the third. He ran like the slowest 40 ever. But that's never been his game. Even to this day, it's not his. He runs probably as fast as he did his rookie year. He's not a burner, but he is just an elite, crisp route runner. And not only just crisp, but a very cerebral player where he understands, how to make his releases look the same to a DB. DBs are constantly commenting on him and how he plays at the same speed regardless of the route that he's running. And that's something that sounds simple, but from a mentality standpoint, when you're lining up as a receiver and you're like, I'm running a go, you're like full steam ahead, right? Versus I'm running a drag. Like your release doesn't quite look the same because obviously those routes are very opposite. But even if you're running like a curl, right, which is kind of like the mirror route of a go route, when you're running that curl, it's very difficult for guys to stay in that mentality of selling the go. And Keenan he really does. No matter what route he's running, he really sells the possibilities that you have to defend, I should say.
Yeah. No,
so
definitely.
I'm sorry. I just had to talk about, I love Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's one of my favorite receivers. But getting back to your point, let's say Khalil, we go edge in the second round, Chop Robinson, or, there's plenty of options there. Khalil would probably bring him on, allow that rookie to kind of serve as edge 3 because we still have Thule. And I mean, Thule's, he's really going to blossom this year. I can damn near guarantee. I mean, he was already good, but I think you're going to see a step up just because everybody else is going to be doing their job so much better in this new defense. And we'll probably break that down in the future, but I think you're really going to see these guys blossom and allowing a rookie to kind of come in because pass rushers tend to struggle their rookie year unless they're just absolutely special. But I don't like to go in with the assumption that, hey, you're great, just go be great. Like as a coach, I'm not going to do anything to make you better. No, great coaches, they make great players elite, right? And they take everybody up a notch. So I'm really excited to see, kind of how they choose to have like almost, in my opinion, it's like having coaches in the locker room, right, that are on the field. It's Keenan Allen on the offensive side, and then you have Khalil Mack. You need leaders, and Jim Harbaugh comes from that style of coaching where he understands, hey, football is a lot of schematics. It's a lot of preparation, but also, it has to do a lot with leadership throughout the season. How are we going to deal with adversity? Who are the voices in my locker room that are going to keep this ship, afloat when waters get tough and the storm comes and blah, 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 however you want to put it. And I think those two guys are really going to be the leaders on this team. Justin is obviously a leader on offense, but just a different style. Keenan is definitely a chirper. Like he's more like, he's like you, he's like me, he's like Phil, he likes to talk a lot, where Herb is more like a lead by example kind of guy.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think locker room is one of the most important things about a team, right? Like just a camaraderie, kind of like going out to war with your boys. Like,
yes, sir.
Just looking side by side and being so confident in the guy that he's going to do his job, and making sure that the young guys are getting that veteran kind of experience and teaching on the field, off the field, making sure they're teaching these young guys that just got millions of dollars. I mean, obviously with the NIL, guys are getting paid, in college and whatnot, but I think that's important too. Just kind of just mentorship, I think it's super important. And those are the two staples on our team, defense and then offense for sure.
Yes, sir. Completely agree. With that being said, man, how do you think the team's draft strategy changes with some of these moves, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with free agency, we kind of get to see a lot of holes filled for teams that maybe they would have went to in the draft. For example, now with Kirk Cousins going to the Falcons, that changes a lot, right? I think that is the big implication for us as well. They're at 11, we're at 5. Who knows? Like, obviously Washington.
I think they're at, oh, you're saying Vikings. I thought you meant Falcons. Sorry.
Yeah, Vikings are at 11, so that would be who we would be trading with. Now they need a quarterback. So I've heard they like J.J. McCarthy, which has close relations with Jim Harbaugh. Like, there's a bunch of things, maybe they're on the phone. Who knows? But I think it definitely changes everything for us. I personally think we're trading the pick,
Mhm.
and then we're going to have a draft haul. Let me tell you why. I just think that with this new regime, they want to have so many options with the young guys and kind of like a rebuild, but not rebuild, but pretty much saying like, all right, all the Brandon Staley guys, they're going to be out. Like, let's start to get our guys and start to recreate this team around the staples of about who we talked about. So I think we trade the pick, go to 11. Whoever's at 11, whether it's Joe Alt, which, I don't believe he will be, Neighbors, or Rome. I think we go that route for sure. Maybe even Brock Bowers, dude. Maybe Brock Bowers gets out of the 10 and then lands in at 11. So there's a lot of options now, but I think we trade the pick. That's for sure.
Yeah. Obviously, none of us can predict the future,
Yeah.
but if we trade it back to 11, I would like that. I would love that actually.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of receivers in the second and third round that you can go get. It would be nice to get a generational prospect, but at the end of the day, nothing is a guarantee, So I can kind of see the argument for either route. In my personal opinion, I'm not sure that those receivers are getting out of the 10. If they do, I think that would be a miracle, and that would be awesome if we could trade down and like get one of our guys. Still, like that's the most ideal situation in the world. But I think being more realistic, at 11, maybe we get Bowers, but probably going tackle there.
Yeah,
Which I think
100%.
is something that we would have to get used to. But that's fine. That's fine because depending on the compensation that we get on the back end, cool. Now let's go plug up all the other holes. I think that the Joe Alt projection is such a weird one because you already have Rashawn. Joe's never played on the right side. So, like, moving him is weird, and then you can't move Rashawn because you're, like, paying him like a left tackle, and why would you pay a right tackle, left tackle? I know people think it's the same position. It's not. It's a completely different
footing
position.
is different.
Yeah.
The way you plant your arm, you're so used to it being the left. Now you're switching it with the right hand. Like, yeah, there's so many things, bro. It's way harder.
The way that it constructs the pocket is completely different too. It's a
Exactly.
pocket is not a perfect semicircle. There's give on one side versus the other depending on how your quarterback drops back and how it's coached up. So I mean, I know we like to think that offensive linemen are interchangeable, and I'm not trying to say he can't do it, but why force that? Like,
It's not in
tackle's
his
not
best,
a need.
Like, it's not in his best interest
No.
or ours, And there's a lot of guys that are gonna be there at 11 to pick, and to force somebody in a different position, it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, I know this might sound unrealistic, but like in my opinion, if we trade down to 11, we probably, if we could somehow trade back again into like the 20 spot, I think now you have a chance to like JPJ and you can get a center, and that's a real position of need.
Yeah.
Right. So a tackle, I mean, I know not everybody loves Trey Pipkins, and I don't necessarily love Trey Pipkins, but he's an NFL tackle. Like, he's fine. He's average, and he's had some bad moments. But, like, let's also keep in mind that, like, Kellen Moore's blocking scheme was tough. It was bad. It was trash, and Joe Lombardi didn't help. But even then, Trey, I think, had a resurgent year under, like, Joe. I think the first year Joe Lombardi was a coordinator.
Yeah.
But regardless, like, he's shown that he can play at that level. I just think it's about getting him in the position. I think the scheme really plays a big role in his success personally. So if we can kind of get him to be average, I mean, we don't need to have all pros at every position, but we don't have a center. We don't have a center on this roster.
None at all.
So if we can somehow get, JPJ, that'd be sweet. Get the Oregon connection going. And if you somehow can trade back twice, all of a sudden all the draft capital's there, and you can really start to load up in the second and third round, which is where all the money's made this year. I mean, if you go look at all the good prospects, kind of just lump in right there, and then once you get past 4, you're kind of picking running backs, and then you have to get lucky.
Exactly.
But 2 to 3, you got like elite receivers, man, compared to previous classes, of course. We can probably do a wide receiver breakdown someday, but I don't want to get too bogged down on that. I think if we trade down to 11, I would like to see us trade down again if possible. If not, cool, let's just take it. We might even have to reach for somebody there, which is fine with me.
Yeah, I just think like this class in general is pretty stacked, and depending on where we're going. I'm excited, bro.
There's so many possibilities,
Dude, I'm
right?
like,
It's
what the
unbelievable.
hell? And obviously,
I've never felt like this.
yeah, like we don't know what they're thinking, but if we were to kind of predict, I think we're going trenches or skill player. Like that's kind of what we're going. So definitely, I think.
I thought we were drafting a kicker first round.
Oh
honestly.
yeah, no, I thought punter too.
Who was that guy that got? I think it was the Buccaneers. Like drafted some dude in the first round. Do you remember that?
Serious?
Like maybe 10 years ago. I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah,
But
that was a long time.
yeah,
ago.
let's not do that. I think Goskowski was a first round pick.
Really.
Some kicker was like, yeah, it's crazy.
insane.
But I mean that worked out.
Yeah. But there's just much possibilities, bro. Honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's what I was. Excuse me. That's what I was gonna say. I mean, I feel like it's just very exciting to see that. Personally, I have so much faith in this front office now, and I used to not. I used to just feel like, dude, these guys are gonna blow it. Like even last year, I was pounding the table for Zay Flowers, man. Like I was part of that camp where he was on the board, and I heard the name Quentin Johnston come up, and hopefully he proves us wrong. And I know Zay has had some off the field issues, but just purely from a projection standpoint, like looking at those guys, I mean, I just don't know how you make that pick, but. That guy is out, and he is a Las Vegas Raider now, Tom Telesco. So.
And the guy who drafted Zay is a Los Angeles Charger, so something to be happy about.
So remember the day that I like told you that? Because I forgot what we were talking about, but you were kind of like, some of your PTSD was showing from the previous regime. You're like, bro, like we're going to blow it somehow. And I was like, Christian, look at me.
Yeah.
Remember how last year we both wanted Zay Flowers?
Looking at you.
Look at me, bro. We both wanted Zay Flowers.
Yes.
We ended up with Quentin Johnston. Well, we got rid of the guy who picked Quentin Johnston, and we picked up the guy who drafted Zay Flowers last year. And he's like, dude, I never thought of it that way. But, I mean, I'm being funny there and exaggerating a little bit. But I think just trying to constantly snap each other out of the, hey, man, this is like a little different now. Don't forget that. Let's have a little faith. And I think in general, we kind of – I mean, we never miss, man. I'm being honest with you.
Seriously.
Like all the draft picks that we've wanted over the years have tend to hit wherever they do go.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're right this time again. All right, man. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Justin Herbert interview that came out. Like, I want to say like maybe a week or two now.
Yep.
Tried to shoot this video or this episode a few times between here and then.
I thought we weren't going to talk about it, but I guess you already.
I've had some challenges.
Yeah. Love it.
So we miss you guys, but we'll be back very soon. But what were your thoughts on the interview? Do you remember kind of what I know that was a while ago, but do you remember kind of what he was talking about?
Yeah, no, I mean, that fucking hair, dude. I mean, yeah, no, I just think it's funny. Justin is he's such an interesting character, just like this guy, the way he answers questions, he kind of tries to, give those leadership, avoiding, the tough ones. I mean, also, they brought up something that has nothing to do with football. They brought up the chargering, like you had mentioned, before, and kind of just asked him, does he know what chargering means? And obviously he kept it professional. He tried to act like he has it. I know he sees that shit. I know
he's been a fan. Like he's a Charger fan. So
exactly.
He knows,
so I think he knows, but I just always think it's funny how he answers the questions, and he's very tries to slide to the side, but I liked how Chase Daniel was kind of talking about his growth in leadership. I think that was a really big one because he kind of got to see Justin and be very close to him during that whole process, right? And we seen it, the Green Bay game this year. The center doesn't snap the ball. This guy finally shows emotion, right? He's usually stoic. He slams the ball. I texted you right away. I was like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
That got me so hyped. But it looks like he hasn't really talked to Jim too much about the whole offense and everything. I think they're, he said they're focusing on everything else. But it looks like he's ready. He talked about Keenan just like you did. Talked about Keenan a lot. So
go figure.
I think we keep his guy if he has anything to say about it. But yeah, just love seeing Justin in front of the camera. I think it's hard to get him even 5 minutes for an interview. So the fact that they got him for 10 or 15 or something, it's always cool as a fan to hear your quarterback talk, right?
Yeah, kind of a double-edged sword there where as fans, you want to hear from your guy, you want to hear from the leader, but also I really appreciate his ability to be presidential in some ways and not give away too much. He's very Bill Belichick-like.
Yeah.
And now that he's not our coach, I can kind of say that without feeling scared about hiring him. But he's very Bill Belichick like, right? He just, hey, whatever business needs to get done, let's just do it. I really appreciate that about Justin. I know that he gets a lot of flack from other fan bases or other fans around the league that, they want him to be a little bit more vocal. But by all accounts, like from players, aside from Austin Eckler, he's a great leader, and I think we saw that in the Raiders game last year where Tillery took the little cheap shot and the whole team just rallied. I mean, that's like, if you follow me on Twitter, that's my cover photo or whatever, like the little banner on my profile, because Justin's just running out there with the football, just pops up all like happy. He knows his boys are there.
Yeah.
Like
even Crosby, bro.
Crosby, I thought Crosby was going to come to the Chargers for me. He loves Justin. He loved, and that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. It's like, I feel like only from the outside, it seems like he's not a leader. But I think the guy's just so like aware of the fact that anything can be misconstrued, and he'd rather just not give the media anything. He'd rather just be like, hey man, no, don't, it's not your job. Like, I know you guys have to ask, but I'm going to answer and I'm going to be respectful, but you're not really going to know the truth. I'm going to keep this close to the vest, and I love that about him. I think that's like one of the best ways to be a quarterback. As long as in the locker room he is a leader, and it sounds like he is, like I said. We all remember that post game where I think Brandon Staley was giving the team a day off for Victory Monday, and Herbert lost his mind because there was no lifting, and he's like, we should be booing, like just stuff like that.
I love that.
Guy has a ton of personality. It's just different. He's not I don't know, like, he's not going to be barking at dudes on the sideline or anything like that. Maybe he can add a little bit of that to his game, but at the end of the day, I'd rather my guy be genuine than be disingenuous. And, if you have guys like Keenan on the team that are vocal leaders, then allow them to be that.
Exactly.
And let her be him. And Jim Harbaugh is a very strong personality. Mm-hmm. So, and that might be something that we get kind of tired of. I'm going to be honest with you, a little bit of foreshadowing. We might get tired of Jim Harbaugh in a few years, but for now, everything's fresh. So I think just allowing Jim to be the voice, and then until Herbert really fully develops that, I think is a perfect marriage there. You have this really strong personality as a coach, and you have this lead by example kind of thing where Justin's just going to do it. And if anybody else has a problem with it, it's like, well, your best player's doing it. You better do it. And that's just the best way to lead, in my opinion.
No, definitely. And then you got guys like Derwin, too. I mean, we forgot to even talk about him. Like, we got guys like Derwin on the other side. Like, he's like, Mac is kind of the Justin of our defense because he's a quiet guy, too. I mean, he's not really like chirping too much. So like,
no, that's a really good point.
You get what I'm
actually
saying? Like,
I never
Mac,
thought of that.
Yeah, like Mac is like the quiet, silent assassin that he's a lead by example and won't say too much. Derwin is like the Keenan of the defense, where he's like the loud, rowdy, pump up guy. So I think we have a collection of leaders on the team, and it's only going to help us moving forward. And then the young guys.
Yes, sir. Man, I'm just thinking about that Khalil Mack, Justin Herbert comparison, because you're right. If you mirror both sides, you have the quiet leader that's ultra talented, there's no doubt, and then you have the rah-rah guy on both sides. But, another element that I think I kind of just thought of as you were saying that is the emotional leaders, while they get you energized, can be a little streaky at times, and can be up and down. And when you have those very cool, calm leaders, they keep everything steady. So they never get too down. All right, maybe Keenan is like on this high and he's, just barking at guys because he's on a tear. But then all of a sudden defense is adjusted, whatever they're doing, kind of take him out of the game plan for a couple weeks. That guy might get down. I'm not saying this is Keenan necessarily, but just as an example. He might dip a little bit in his attitude, and Justin is just right here. He's never like, he has little moments where he breaks, but he's right here. He's steady. Khalil Mack is right here. He's steady, and those guys keep everything kind of stable. So, man, that was a really good comparison. I love that. I really love that. Yeah, they both have guys over for food. Justin with the brisket and Khalil with the team dinner. So that is spot on, man. That's really good stuff. Yeah. That's why we pay you so much, Christian.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
On this BoltTalk podcast.
That this Friday, man.
Yeah, man. And then just like finally, one of the things that really stood out to me about that interview in particular was Justin kind of highlighting Shane Day.
Yes.
So bringing him back, and I think a lot of people kind of were hoping that Justin would have a little bit more say in the organization and the direction of it. And it's cool to see that some of his input was actually listened to, and they brought his guy back because it sounds like he loves him. And He saw Justin through everything. So I think when you get a guy that's really seeing like, man, I know you had a tough year last year, but we understand the context surrounding it. Let's just, turn a new page. Let's look forward. Let's get back to the things that you do well and just keep adding to your game because he's brilliant. I mean, Justin Herbert is brilliant. He's one of those guys that even as Kellen Moore came in, he was talking about Justin just being able to pick up the playbook from day one and just like, he's just a brilliant dude. So I think no matter what you throw at him, he's going to be successful. But now it's time to kind of stop relying on him so much and just start bringing things to the table. And I'm really confident that the staff is going to do that. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Definitely, yeah. I was more fixated on his hair, but whatever whatever he said was cool too. What was your most exciting or surprising sign of free agency so far?
Like around the league?
Yeah, around the league, just in general.
I don't think it's surprising, but one of the signings that I really, really loved actually happened, I think, today or yesterday. Derrick Henry going to the Ravens. That was sick.
That was yesterday.
That was sick, man. Go let that guy be like in a running offense that is actually designed to run the ball, not just like, oh, we're just gonna force feed it and like volume run down your throat. It's like, no, it's Lamar Jackson. He's gonna run the ball probably more than you. Just go punch it in for us time to time. I think it's about time that they have like a real running back. I don't know if that necessarily pushes them over the top. I think even last year this year they could have beat the Chiefs, but they just got completely away from who they were. And Lamar was trying to prove that for some reason that he can throw from the pocket, which he can, but it's just you're just not the same guy if you're not threatening with your legs. That's who you are, bro. Like
exactly.
But I don't want to get too heated over that. But I think the Derrick Henry going to the Ravens was really cool. Kirk Cousins going to the Falcons, you mentioned it. Was really, really nice because I think the Vikings are a really great trade partner. And with Kirk staying in Minnesota, it would have made that kind of difficult. But that kind of opened up a possibility for us. Obviously, Atlanta could have traded up, but I think they probably, if they didn't go Kirk, they probably were just going to go get Justin Fields. So, yeah, but I love that signing just because I love fantasy football. You love fantasy football. And we finally get to see, Kyle Pitts catch the ball, Drake London catch the ball. Bijan Robinson, and I think Atlanta has a really good thing going on over there with Raheem Morris as a head coach and then Zach Robinson coordinating the offense. Christian, you probably know this, but Sean McVay is one of my favorite coaches in the league.
Yes.
One of my favorite coaches of all time, actually. And that guy keeps just making stud coaches around the league. So it's really cool to see that coaching tree continue to grow. And then finally, probably, I don't know, I'm kind of torn. I feel like the Saquon or the Will Dissly. No, I'm just kidding. How about Russell Wilson to the Steelers? What do we think about that?
I don't know what I feel about that, man. I mean, can Mike
AJ,
Tomlin... yeah, shout out AJ. He's been sending me so much stuff on Insta and everything, man. Like, it's funny.
Mr. Unlimited.
Yeah, that's actually what he said, too. I don't know how to feel about it, man. I mean, hopefully, who knows? Can Mike Tomlin fix the guy? Can having another stud defense help him just like it did in Seattle? There's so many questions. Do I think that Russell Wilson is done? No. Do I think he's not as elite as people think he is, pulling up highlights from his rookie season?
I love that trend, by the way.
Yeah, it's so funny. Just like with Austin Eckler, too.
Yeah.
And then they pulled up the Green Bay game. They're like, no, this is the guy you're getting.
Yeah.
But so, so many questions, but I don't think he's done. I think, maybe he's going to give you what he's going to give you, and he's not going to be bombing it 60 yards or anything. But I love the way that Pittsburgh Steelers just organization as a whole, how they run that thing. So I think he's in a good spot for the time of his career,
I do too. I kind of do want to talk about that because it's an interesting signing in my opinion. The Broncos are going to pay him like $38 million to go play for the Steelers. So the good thing is that getting Russell Wilson on the contract that Denver got him on is I mean, it's devastating. It's like a 5-year setback.
Yeah.
But getting him on a $1 million deal or whatever the deal was for 1 year, that's brilliant. Huge. Like that's where you want him. Yeah, you're paying. I mean,
pennies to
so
the dollar,
below
man.
market value there.
Yeah.
And the great thing is, I think Russ understands that, hey, I'm getting paid either way. Let me just go to the best situation for myself. And Mike Tomlin to me is very Pete Carroll-esque, because, defensive-minded head coach, rah-rah kind of guy, very good at keeping the culture tight, even with very strong personalities. So I think he can. I don't think he's gonna fix Russ, because I think Russ is not that he's overrated even at his best, but he's overrated even at his best, because that Super Bowl run, I mean, that was the defense. They destroyed the Broncos, and
Yep.
he didn't really have to lift a finger. So he won a Super Bowl, but like, how much did he win it? And he did kind of throw the game losing pick. Well, I'm not gonna get on him too much, but it's not like Pittsburgh has solved the offensive coordinator problem that they've been having for years now. So I don't know how I feel about it. I just think that the defense is so good, the culture's so good over there, that as long as he's okay, they'll probably be okay. They'll probably be like a playoff team. That division is very tough. Yeah, like literally, like think about it. Name the quarterbacks.
Got Joe Burrow.
Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco. Joe Schmo. No, I'm just kidding. But
but
and then
they have
Deshaun Watson. I mean, he's gonna be the starter, so we'll see what he
kinda,
does. Yeah, exactly.
But overall, I mean, you have the Ravens that are perennial playoff team, AFC conference
every year, like
kind of game or team.
Yeah.
Same with the Bengals. Once Joe Burrow's healthy, and then even the Browns are always good. So
yeah.
I don't know if it pushes them over the top, but it's definitely interesting to talk about. And the Steelers are a great franchise, so hopefully they can get back to that soon, because I do kind of root for them from afar a little bit, just because I respect the way they run things. But ultimately, it's all Bolt Up over here, baby.
Yes, sir. Do you remember that? Do you remember? Hold on, before we go, man. I
was about to cut it, man. Let's go. Let's hear it.
No. Do you remember that game? It was like a snow game when Troy Polamalu did like the scoop.
Yeah.
But when Phillip darted to Vincent Jackson, like the second play of the game, I just wanted to mention that. That was versus the Steelers, so that was a fun one. But obviously, we know the result of that.
I was like maybe, what was that, like 09? I was probably like 12 or something. And I remember like I cried after that.
Oh, wow.
I was like, why can't we do it?
I cried after the Jets.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, when Sean Green, Nate Kaeding.
When they didn't gain a single first down in the first half, and they still beat us. Like, dude,
bro. And
then LT signs them the next year.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I just couldn't take it.
So if Justin's watching this, that's what chargering is, by the way. Just
there we go. Hopefully he's not watching too much.
Yeah.
Justin, if you are watching, love to have you on the show. You're awesome. You're amazing. You're my hero. All right, guys. Well, that's about going to do it for us today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Very excited to provide that. It took us a couple tries.
Yes.
But hopefully we can start getting out some more of this content pretty quickly. There's a ton of moves, so we're trying to keep up as best as we can. We might have to get creative, but overall, we're here to serve you guys, and very excited to keep talking Chargers up until the next season starts. So with that being said, Bolt Up and have a great day.
Bolt Up, baby.